everyone, my name's Darren Leech. I'm a director at NHS Elect and I'm part of the coaching faculty, and we work with members up and down the country training people to use coaching skills in the workplace. And in our last video we covered 3 of the biggest traps people fall into. The first and most common and blindingly obvious one for people who work in the NHS, where we're used to giving advice all the time, is exactly that, that's giving advice. The second trap people tend to fall into is not respecting silence, not respecting other people's thinking time and butting into that silence, interrupting people's train of thought. And the third was not really setting a clear goal at the start of the coaching conversation, so not anchoring that conversation down at the start. So today I'm going to talk to you about 3 other quite common traps that people fall into when they're trying to use a coaching approach with the people at work. So the first one is not summarising, paraphrasing and reflecting enough during the conversation. So most of you will know a coach should only really speak for about 5% of a coaching conversation. 95% of that conversation is the person you're having a coaching conversation with talking through the issues for themselves, reflecting, generating ideas, as all part of the process. And if you don't do enough summarising and paraphrasing and reflecting to help nudge them along that journey, that can be quite a mistake that people make. So why do we summarise? Why do we paraphrase? Why do we reflect during the conversation? Well, number one, it shows you're actively listening, and it means you're much more likely to do it. So let's be honest, some people are really boring. Some of the issues they're going to be talking about are things you've heard lots of times before. So you can set yourself a challenge as a coach to make sure that you listen actively and then summarise, paraphrase or reflect back to the person you're coaching what they've just said. It's really positive for the person that you're having that conversation with. The second thing is these techniques help the coachee clarify and frame the problem that they want to talk to you about. It helps them explore the context and reality that they're facing, and it provides a mirror. That's the third thing. It provides a real mirror for them to reflect on how they've described the situation, and that can often result in a fourth outcome, if you like, or a fourth point for me to make, which is about sometimes when you have a conversation with someone and they reflect back what you've said, number one, it's really helpful to hear that concise summary, so you walk away being able to describe the problem far more effectively, but it also can trigger new or innovative thoughts. So I know I've had lots of conversations with people where they've reflected back what I've said and I go, yeah, that's absolutely what I've said, but now you've said it, it's made me think of something else. And that's a really useful outcome of that approach. So summarise, paraphrase and reflect. The second mistake, bear trap, I want to talk about in terms of coaching conversations today is making sure that you spot and challenge weasel words. So what do I mean by weasel words? What I mean by weasel words is when people are committing to actions, when you get to the point of the conversation that they're starting to think about what they're going to do and they're making statements around, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you might sometimes detect an element of doubt, and that's because they have inserted what I would call a weasel word at the start of the action statement. So the types of words I would be actively looking out for at the start of a sentence that's about action would be perhaps, could, might, maybe, try. Those are sort of 5 really good examples of weasel words. They're the sort of slippery, Teflon coated words that essentially to me say, I've got good intent here, but there's something underlying that's undermining my doubt or undermining my motivation, my commitment, and I've got doubts about this, so I'm just inserting this word as a sort of covert code. So it's really important for you as a coach to pick those up and challenge them. The best way of challenging them is to simply reflect back that single weasel word with a question mark at the end. If you do that, you'll often find that people will either absolutely commit to the action because it's maybe it's a force of habit thing, or they will unveil to you previously unmentioned barriers or concerns that are getting in the way of them achieving that action. So once you identify those, you can obviously talk through those and help the person you're coaching become a lot more confident, a lot more motivated, and a lot more committed to the action. So do listen out for weasel words, spot them, and challenge them by just reflecting them back with a question mark at the end. The third and final mistake and trap that coaches can fall into when they're working with people in the health service, it's one that's picked up in the coaching literature actually. So if you read a lot about coaching and the sort of tools and techniques, you might have heard people saying that the word why is like a swear word. Coach should never use the word why when you're coaching and you're asking people questions. That's because many people associate the word why with an accusatory tone. So when people use the word why, you're on the receiving end of that. Sometimes psychologically you feel like you're being accused of something. And I guess I would relate this to people in the NHS who are familiar with the root cause analysis process. One of the tools and techniques that I have seen used in the health service in different organisations is the 5 whys technique for getting to the root cause of the problem. So I think, in fairness, some people associate that sort of root cause process with blame rather than learning. So we don't really want to get involved in that sphere. So it's good to just remember why is a swear word. We should not use it, and you're much more likely to build rapport and trust with the person you're trying to coach if you ask lots of other good coaching questions that don't begin with the word why. So the classic coaching questions begin with what, how, tell me about, that sort of thing. So third and final mistake, avoid the word why.